and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum. We have a lot of news. We have marriage news from Wisconsin, Virginia, Indiana, Nevada, and elsewhere.
And 11 states. I'm Ann Northrup. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, anti-gay forces are mounting a recall of an out gay city council member because he's pro-gay.
In New York, the new mayor, Bill de Blasio, says that city personnel have a right to march in uniform in the anti-gay St. Patrick's Day parade.
It's getting to be a real mess here, and that's beyond the snow. We have an update on the gay journalist who was beaten on a midtown Manhattan street. He's now been charged with assault, along with the guy who beat him up.
Okay, athlete allies are headed for Sochi to raise LGBT issues. There's a ton of news to tell you about what's going on with Russia and Sochi and all that stuff.
And you can console yourself with the fact that HRC is going to watch every minute of the Olympics on every NBC channel to watch for every gay thing. Andy will review Almost Maine, but he almost fell on the stage.
You'll hear about it. And we welcome to our family San Francisco Comcast Channel 27, where you can see us at 11 o'clock on Monday nights, 11 p.m.
If you are in San Francisco or know anyone who is, we are now on basic cable there, Monday nights at 11, Comcast Channel 27, and let's launch into the news.
Lots of developments around marriage. In Virginia, they had oral arguments in the case that Olson and Boyce are handling for us on Tuesday before federal judge Arenda Wright Allen in the Eastern District. The Attorney General, Mark Herring there, who won't defend the law, attended. He's still getting a lot of heat. And the Virginia governor, Terry McAuliffe, says he's not going to defend it either. So the Alliance Defense Fund representative is defending Prince William County's clerk. The
judge promised a quick decision, but whatever decision she makes will be probably stayed while all of this is appealed. Everything else is stayed. So this is another case that could lead a final marriage decision to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, there's a consecutive case in Virginia being argued by the gay groups, and that has been turned into a class action suit to represent all the same-sex couples in Virginia.
Big development in Wisconsin, where same-sex couples are suing to overturn the constitutional amendment that doesn't let us get married there so they can get married, and to overturn the marriage evasion law that imposes a fine or imprisonment for those who go elsewhere to marry in ways prohibited by Wisconsin, right?
That would circumvent the ban on same-sex marriage. They could go to jail.
That's right, for a year.
If you live in Wisconsin and you go to Iowa and get married as a same-sex couple and you come back to live in Wisconsin, you can go to jail. Although we've come up against this before, and I think the trick is if you try to represent yourself as married in Wisconsin.
But you will be married federally when you come back.
Exactly. So they're trying to overturn that.
Right.
But my favorite story about this is a suit brought by the ACLU and 4 couples. One of these couples, 2 men, one of the men had lung cancer and was put into, was in an induced coma after surgery. His father tried to have the plug pulled on him over the wishes of his partner.
Family values.
Luckily, the guy survived and is back to life, but the partner would like the ability to make medical decisions.
So we've told you about the backs and forths in Indiana, about them trying to pass a constitutional amendment against same-sex marriage. I think this will be the last one if they get it through, but there's different versions in the House and the Senate now. Governor Mike Pence, who's a Republican, wants the amendment to keep the clause banning domestic partners that they took out in the House, right?
They did.
Yes. So that it can be, we need to get this resolved this year, he said.
Well, I'm surprised that we haven't heard more about it in the intervening week because things were moving fast there. So there must be some big negotiations going on. In the Utah case, which is now on appeal to the 10th Circuit court in Denver.
It's going to be heard April 10th.
Robbie Kaplan, who won the DOMA case in the Supreme Court of the United States, and 3 other Utah couples have asked to intervene to raise other issues related to the Utah law, although we haven't heard specified what that is yet. Olson and Boyce offered to join the Utah case and the Oklahoma case at the 10th Circuit. They were rebuffed by all the current lawyers.
Oh, well, can't we all get along?
Evidently not.
Well, a representative in Utah introduced a bill to give residents an option on their taxes to donate to the Marriage Defense Fund that the state will spend at least $300,000 for outside counsel to lose the case.
And the outside counsel that the Utah has hired, this was one of the things that was in my notes I forgot last week, Gene Scherer, said, here was his quote about representing Utah against us in this case. I have accepted the position so that I can fulfill what I have come to see as a religious and family duty, defending the constitutionality of traditional marriage in the state where my church is headquartered and where most of my family resides.
Well, they filed their brief and they say that marriage is principally a child-centered institution. That's their argument. Meanwhile, while they're spending all this money on this case and asking for extra tax money, at the Uintah Elementary School in Salt Lake City.
I think.
All right, Uintah, U-I-N-T-A-H. All right, whatever. Let's call the whole thing off. 40 kids at this elementary school had their school lunches, which had already been served, yanked and trashed by school authorities because their parents were behind on their payments.
Very family friendly. And the right-wing Utah brief in the marriage case says,
child-centered.
If we let same-sex couples marry, it will convince straight couples not to have kids because they will look at same-sex couples who don't have kids, which is a myth.
A lie.
And they will say, oh, we should be more narcissistic too and not have children.
Oh, narcissistic.
And therefore the population will go down, and this will be bad for Utah.
I have never used contraception.
For the Oklahoma case in the 10th Circuit, the 10th Circuit has agreed to expedite the appeal, but they are not combining it with the Utah case. But the same 3 judges in the 10th Circuit will hear oral arguments on both a week apart in April.
Right.
And
in West Virginia, the federal judge says that most of the lawsuit versus the law on same-sex marriage can proceed, the Lambda suit. They say the claims for recognizing same-sex marriages from other states needs additional plaintiffs.
The judge in Hawaii has upheld the marriage law there. The right-wing member of the legislature had challenged it, saying it violated the intent of the voters, but in fact it did not violate what the voters did, so the judge upheld the marriage law, so we're okay there.
In the Nevada case, 11 state attorneys general are arguing that there is no fundamental right to same-sex marriage. I'll say what they are: Alabama, Arizona, Alaska, Colorado.
That's a shocker.
Idaho, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and South Carolina. And of course Utah. I think that's encouraging that they could only get 11 state attorneys general
I
to
think
do
it's
this.
the district. I think it's all the attorneys general in that district.
Well, then that's terrible.
Yeah, especially since it includes Colorado. What's the Attorney General of Colorado doing arguing against us? HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, has set up a marriage communications war room. I guess they want to control the messaging around marriage or offer coherent messaging around marriage. So you can go to their website if you want to see what they're doing.
In Oregon, we're now told that ballot measures this year are likely to both allow same-sex couples to get married, but also to allow florists, cake makers, and others not to participate if they have religious grounds for not participating in a same-sex wedding. I worry about that one. That's the big issue of the day.
Absolutely, and more about that when we get to the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York. In Colorado, there's a bill moving through the legislature there that would require same-sex couples in Colorado that have civil unions, which is all Colorado offers, or who were married in other states, to file state taxes as they file their federal taxes. So we're not going to give you marriage, but we're going to require you to file your state taxes as married if you were married elsewhere. Very strange. And the Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders, the Massachusetts legal group, has sued a Connecticut nursing home, the Brookdale Senior Living, for refusing to include employees, an employee's wife on the health plan. GLAD has filed an EEOC complaint. This is the largest owner and operator of senior living communities. They are absolutely flagrantly defying the law by not allowing legally married couples to put their spouse on the health plan.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Other news. Shall we move on to Tennessee, where
in Chattanooga, there's a recall effort against the out gay council member, Chris Anderson, the first out gay council member there, because he's pro-gay, because he introduced a kind of a gay rights thing there. Man.
Well,
I guess they're entitled to do it.
Well, it's conservative members of his district who are claiming he's not representing them. And some of it is about race, because he's white and they're black, and so they're bringing that into it.
It's ugly.
It is ugly. But a lot of it is
Can't we all get along? I'll say it again.
Because he passed this benefits for city employees plan.
Yep.
John Boehner, Speaker of the House of Representatives, says there will be no Employment Non-Discrimination Act this year, in spite of the fact that the White House claims that's what they want. He did, however, meet with representatives of the LGBT Equality Caucus. This is not just the gay members. There are 113 members of the House who've signed on as members of the Equality Caucus, but he didn't meet with all of them, just reps in his office. He's never done that before. And Jay Carney, the White House press spokesman, has been saying, we don't want to hear about an executive order. We're focused on ENDA.
So Chris Johnson from the Washington Blade went at the press conference with Carney, says, well, all right, John Boehner's closed the door on ENDA. What are you going to do an executive order? And Carney got very annoyed and just kept repeating that we want ENDA.
Yeah, but then White House counselor John Podesta, who used to work for Clinton and has been brought back into the Obama White House now says that an ENDA executive order for contractors is under consideration. So that is an update on what John Carney's been saying.
Boehner did say, but who knows what can happen in a lame duck session of Congress. That's what he said.
Back to the courts, the Ninth Circuit District Court has upheld a lower version of their court, saying that California's no reparative therapy for minors law is permissible regulation of medical treatment to protect the public health and safety, and does not violate the free speech rights of therapists.
However, the law was supposed to go into effect January 1st. It didn't, and the Ninth Circuit has stayed their decision while the Liberty Counsel appeals it to the United States Supreme Court.
Exactly. And a similar no reparative therapy for minors bill has been killed in the Virginia legislature. But in Maine, the High Court there says that the Human Rights Act they have there, which includes gender identity and expression, means that a transgender female student must be allowed to use the girls' bathroom. In a fifth grader, this came up because a fifth grade boy followed this girl into the girls' bathroom and caused some kind of ruckus. And so they were trying to get the transgender girl barred from the bathroom, but the court says nonsense.
Blame the victim.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is the first time a state court has held that. In Utah, there's a bill to ban transgender use of restrooms that a student identifies with. You must use the one for the gender they were born with, or use a private restroom. And the bill requires an inspection of the child's genitals. That's what's in the bill. Not by a doctor, but nevertheless. Outrageous.
There is activism happening in Idaho, in the state capital in Boise. 43 people, activists, got arrested silently blocking entrance to the state Senate. You can see the state senator trying to get past them there.
Held up business for 2 hours.
Excellent, because they are demanding that the Senate bring up a non-discrimination act that would include sexual orientation and gender identity and expression.
Their T-shirts say, add the 4 words,
Yeah.
sexual orientation, gender identity, to the bill, to the human rights law of Idaho. Good on you there. That's the kind of activism we want to see all across this great gay USA of ours.
A little nonviolent mass civil disobedience.
Sure.
Good for the soul.
Now back to transgender. In Maryland, transgender activist Dana Beyer is challenging the out-case state senator Richard Madaleno, and for his post, he's the chief sponsor of the state bill to ban discrimination based on gender identity and expression, and Equality Maryland is sticking with him in the primary.
Well, let us get into the mess that is happening now in New York City over the St. Patrick's Day parade. Small background. 23 years ago, the Irish Lesbian and Gay Organization applied to march
A group of gay Irish immigrants.
Really gay Irish immigrants applied to march in the St. Patrick's Day parade as a contingent.
They said, "Why don't we march?"
Yeah.
So they applied, and they were told you're going on a waiting. It's a long story, but basically they were not allowed to march with their banner. So Mayor Dinkins at the time said, "Well, I'll march with you, and you can march in Division 7 of the Ancient Order of Hibernians." Well, and they got beer cans thrown at them, even without a banner.
Rocks, all sorts of stuff.
After that, the
horrible, abusive shouts.
So after that, the parade organizers declared themselves not an Irish celebration, but a private, religious, Catholic celebration that could not tolerate the presence of identifiable homosexuals. And they were banned. So Mayor Dinkins said,
We all got arrested for many years trying to protest
I didn't get arrested, I covered it.
Well, I did.
Lots of people got arrested.
Yeah.
So anyway, the mayor didn't march anymore, but when Giuliani and Bloomberg came in, they did march, even though they said they didn't think they should be excluded. I don't know. And so this has gone on for all these years.
And some politicians marched, like Hillary Clinton, and some didn't, like Bill de Blasio, although he helped her march.
Long story.
But it was a big divide for many years.
So we've got this new mayor who's supposed to be very progressive. So we thought, and we are included in this effort, to say, look, this is an outrage that the biggest contingents are police and firefighters in uniform. This is an anti-gay parade. You have the power to say, you can march, but you can't march and represent our city in uniform.
And in fact, the human rights law of the city of New York suggests that you should not legally be marching in uniform, because that sends a message to the community that you support the anti-gay bigotry of the Archdiocese and this parade in contravention of the human rights of all your citizens.
So Mayor de Blasio reaffirmed that he's not going to march because certain individuals are excluded. Who might that be, Bill? Gay people.
You'd think he could say those words.
Please.
No.
And then he says, but as far as cops marching in uniform, he says they have a right to. And I want to say to you, Bill de Blasio, if it was a racist march, you'd be at the head of the line saying, I don't want anybody representing the city in the parade like that.
But the news media has seen fit to see this as a huge victory for the gay community that the mayor is not marching. They have neglected to notice that he has never marched in his official capacity as a city council member, as a
in the New York parade,
public advocate.
He did march in a Brooklyn anti-gay parade while people were getting arrested.
Right.
Well, let's get all the facts out there.
Okay.
This is Gay USA.
But, you know, headlines all over the country. Mayor will not march in parade. Stop the presses.
But, you know, and we'll talk about this later in international news, Catholics don't support this. This is a very narrow group of Irish right-wingers who run this thing.
Tell them the line you got from someone when you said to him, but gay people march openly in the parades in Ireland.
And the guy said to me, Ireland? He said, they're liberals.
So we're in the midst of a huge fight. We're going to have a big town meeting next week probably to see where we go from here. But the demand is no official city sanction of this parade by letting cops and firefighters and sanitation members march in uniform. And certainly all politicians out of the parade. You'll hear more.
Staying in New York for a minute, we told you about the out-gay journalist Randy Jenner, G-E-N-E-R, a Filipino-American, who was bashed in Midtown. Well, and we thought it might be a gay bashing as he was coming home, or an anti-Filipino thing. Well, now, the story that's out there now from the police is, yes, he was clocked and he hit his head and he had a terrible thing, but they're saying he attacked a group that he bumped into a woman and then she threw his purse at him and missed her purse. And her story is that he kicked me. He denies this. He's compass mentis enough now from his concussion to say, I never hit anybody. But nevertheless, he's been charged with assault. And the guy who hit him has been charged. But they're saying it was a fight. Now, I don't know how they're going to resolve this.
We weren't there. We don't know. But it seems highly unlikely. And in the context of this question about the cops, it raises some questions.
Yes.
Also raising questions is this case of Islan Nettles, a young transgender woman who was beaten up and killed right in front of a police precinct last fall.
Which they did not investigate properly immediately. So there was a big protest against the DA and the cops. 150 rallied at Police Plaza and are demanding a more thorough investigation, and they're not getting anywhere.
And the mother of the poor dead victim says the cops called her and asked for the phone number of the chief suspect.
Who has disappeared, by the way. His name is Paris Wilson.
So you wonder why we are a little on the case of the cops in this town, and those are a couple of answers.
Yeah, the Presbyterian Church, the National Capital Presbytery, voted to amend the definition of marriage to include same-sex couples. It allows pastors to perform if their conscience allows, and then they have to get permission. They have to bring this to the whole big national conference and see if they can do that. But it's going to lead to a lot of same-sex marriages in the Presbyterian Church.
Excellent. Also, by the way, in Boston, the LGBT Irish groups there applied to march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade and were rejected quite smugly by the parade organizers there. They're the ones whose case ended up at the Supreme Court a few years ago that established the right of private parades to exclude whoever they want.
But there are two parades there, and there is one that does include us.
Yes.
In Portland, Oregon, a woman who attacked a gay couple walking a pink poodle, we have a picture of the couple, was convicted.
And the poodle.
She was convicted of obstruction of justice, Soraya Gardner. Her husband struck with a crowbar.
His trial is still to come.
The dog was dyed with Kool-Aid for Easter.
Yeah, died as in colored. He's still alive.
I didn't say the dog died.
I would like to thank Representative Henry Waxman of California for his 40 years of service, for being one of the first to, you're not a fan of Henry?
Oh, I am. I think he's leaving us. I don't like people when they leave a sinking ship, which is the Democratic Party in the House.
Well, he's been there for 40 years. 40 years, and maybe his district is safe and more Democrats will be elected. But he was one of the early supporters of our community. He was one of the early people on AIDS.
Terrific. I like Henry Waxman.
Absolutely. So just thank him for his service.
All right.
And Matthew Barrett, 43 years old, has filed a complaint. He was offered a job at Fontbonne Academy in Milton, Mass., right down the street from an old house of my parents, which then rescinded his job offer as food services director when they realized he was married to a man.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank Henry Waxman for his service. Ian asked me to.
California's Assembly Speaker Tony Atkins, the new out-lesbian Speaker of the California Assembly, has introduced a Respect After Death Act so that transgender people's gender identity will be respected on their death certificates. This has evidently been a problem for people after they die.
Absolutely.
And I think the Seahawks won the Super Bowl because of their gay mayor, because Washington State has full marriage rights, and because I had some money on them.
Oh, well.
But also, real news out of Seattle, the police have arrested a 30-year-old man for attempted arson of the gay neighbor's nightclub. So they've caught a guy. I don't know whether, he's the...
That could have been a disaster, but it was put out by some quick-thinking gay soldiers who were on hand.
Exactly. Oh, by the way, in the Super Bowl, one of the storylines is that Coke ran an ad with, a second and a half of two gay dads with their daughter at a roller rink. But, we all said, oh, this is your way of making up for never saying anything to Putin or the IOC about what's going on with the Olympics. And they said, oh, yeah, that's what we're doing. And everybody goes, oh, aren't they great? It's like de Blasio. You do this, and they throw a parade for you. But
stop being grateful for crumbs, my brothers and sisters.
But here's the thing. Because that ad was so successful at the Super Bowl, it actually got a lot of... It was very controversial.
It was controversial because they were singing in other languages.
And because they had the gay family. It was both.
America the Beautiful.
Yes, in 7 languages.
By a lesbian.
Yes.
Who wrote that song?
Julia Ward Howe? No. The other one.
All right.
Anyway, the Coke is going to run a 90-second version of the ad in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics Friday night. Okay. So watch for that if that hasn't already passed by.
And don't send us a lot of emails about who wrote the song. It'll come to us. We're elderly.
We'll look it up, we promise.
And we'll,
Thank you to the Gill Foundation, headquartered in Colorado, which we've mentioned several times today. They have announced that they're going to start a new campaign. They have noticed that, we're doing all this marriage stuff. We're doing very well in all sorts of ways, but there's still, state by state, all these lack of non-discrimination laws. And so they are going to devote some real resources now focused on changing that state by state, lacking a national ENDA. And they're going to concentrate in particular on the South, where very little funding goes for LGBT issues.
And maybe they're helping Idaho, but the people of Idaho seem to be helping themselves by getting active, because people power beats money.
Yes, every day.
Well, unfortunately, no, but yeah, it should.
A little controversy here. The New York City Administration for Children's Services has paid for sex reassignment surgery for a child in foster care who's 21, certainly of age to make that request, and certainly appropriate medical care for anyone under control of the city. We told you about the college footballer last week who came out, Connor Mertens.
Kicker.
At Willamette University. Well, now his boyfriend's come out.
Oh, I mean...
He's a baseball player.
Oh, he's a baseball player.
Is that a first? At Walla Walla Community College.
Is that a first?
Yes.
Come on, and don't tell me it's the first college baseball player that's come out.
I think so. I don't know.
You'll tell us.
Anyway, he said he talked to the team and he said, that college football player came out at the...
He's mine.
I'm dating him.
He's my Valentine.
And controversy in Alabama, where Representative Mike Rogers, a Republican, was making anti-gay jokes at the Alabama Association of Realtors conference, and the realtors got up in arms and said, screw you, we don't like that kind of language around here. Stop making those gay-bashing jokes, and you're not going to be invited back.
Winning.
And Clay Aiken is running for Congress in North Carolina, and his opponent, who's the incumbent representative, is already saying, oh, he's a San Francisco kind of candidate. And remember the out gay black judge in Florida who Obama nominated to the district court? And
Marco Rubio supported him and then withdrew his support, and he can't get him through.
So now Obama has nominated another out gay black judge from the same lower court to the district court.
I could say what Lyndon Johnson said when he nominated Thurgood Marshall to the court, but I can't on television.
Please don't. All right. Russia?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so much. The Olympics are getting underway as you watch this. I'm
happy. Look, I don't always have, I'm not always in agreement with the Human Rights Campaign, but I am happy they are devoting resources to sitting down and watching every damn minute of the Olympics, which NBC will be carrying on MSNBC, CNBC, Bravo, the NBC Sports Channel, NBC. They're going to have 1,500 hours of coverage. HRC is going to watch every minute of it and is going to let us know anything gay that happens anywhere or not on NBC.
And I would suggest you watch the video that was just released by Human Rights Watch. You can go to hrw.org, Human Rights Watch. We'll send it around in our email, which you can get if you write to andyhum@aol.com. But they've compiled these videos shot by these crazy neo-Nazi bigots who are beating up, assaulting gay people. It is something to watch. It's about 4 minutes long. It's very painful, but that's why we're so excited, not excited, but so outraged about this story.
Yep. Billie Jean King has had to cancel, for the moment, her trip to Sochi as a member of the U.S. delegation. Her mother is very ill, and so she is not going to go to the opening ceremonies as she was scheduled to do.
And she asked Janet Napolitano to come out in her place.
No,
she didn't. Maybe she did.
We're down one gay.
I don't know. Yeah.
So Janet now has to come out. But seriously, Caitlin Cahoe, the out lesbian hockey player who was going to go to closing ceremonies, is now going to go to opening ceremonies.
And by the way, the Human Rights Watch has also talked about now Olympic sponsors are going to have to make more of an issue about human rights in deciding who can host the Olympics in the future. Well, I hope they've gotten that message.
You know, the USOC wrote that into their rules now. The IOC has sort of promised that for the future. But one of the shocking things this week, well, not so shocking if you know him, Thomas Bach, the new head of the International Olympic Committee, gave a furious speech about how dare people politicize the Olympics with
on
these
the backs of the athletes, he said.
Oh, my
on the backs of the athletes.
You know, he's like this with Putin. That's why he ended up as the head of the IOC, and he's been making these disgusting statements all along and refusing to challenge because he's a friend of Putin and saying, you know, oh, the Russians have assured us everything is going to be fine. Well, really? And that's why there's no water or Wi-Fi or door handles on the hotels in Sochi?
You can look scants at this, but this letter that they wrote to some of our side was released this week, responding to activists, saying that, this is from the IOC, saying athletes and guests are free to express their views in response to media questions in social media and in discussions.
Yeah, but they can't do anything, you know, overt on their own. It all has to be in response. 52 Olympians, 12 of whom are at Sochi now, the rest are former Olympians, wrote a letter asking Russia to repeal the anti-gay law and said they are angry at the IOC and the sponsors for not exerting more pressure. The listed include signers Martina Navratilova, Greg Louganis, Andy Roddick, Robbie Rogers, Megan Rapinoe.
And the Australian four-man bobsled team.
Really? They're on that list?
Absolutely.
And AT&T is the first major corporation. They sponsor the USOC and the American team. They're not IOC sponsors or, you know, the major Olympic sponsors. But they're the first major corporation to condemn the anti-gay laws in Russia. The first. You'd think by now someone else in a corporation would have condemned these laws. Also condemning it, second corporation, DeVry University, which you see advertising on TV and you think is cheesy, but in fact, many Olympic athletes are students of DeVry University.
So there was a protest against all this in London. We have a picture of it.
Very creative.
They did Swan Lake outside the Russian embassy there in protest of the Sochi Olympics and the anti-gay laws in Russia. Also out of London, the UK Observer is calling for same-sex kissing from the podium in Sochi and the waving of rainbow flags.
And the British government announced that it is going to give money to British and Russian LGBT activists as an official donation from the government.
Plus more money to their group Stonewall to work on this issue.
Yes, those are some of the activists they're giving money to.
Okay.
The U.S. State Department released a video called "We Are All Athletes" that includes gay men, and we thought you'd like to take a look at that.
We may not look the same
or dress the same.
We may live in different places
and lead different lives,
but we are all athletes.
We are all persistent,
relentless,
and stubborn.
We love speed.
We aim for perfection.
We work through pain.
We don't let people tell us who we are or who we should be.
we don't give up when things get tough.
We don't take no for an answer.
We all strive.
We all struggle. We all persevere.
We all support each other.
Our lives may differ,
But we are all dreamers.
Competitors.
Champions.
Teammates.
We are all athletes.
So that's nice. That was put out by the U.S. State Department. But again, these things are subtle. I'd like something a little more overt.
Well, if you want to see something overt, Channel 4 in the United Kingdom filmed anti-gay vigilante groups, sort of like what Human Rights Watch did, but they did a big thing this week, which we haven't seen yet because it's coming out as we tape, but we'll give you the link to that if you write to us for our email.
It's called Hunted. They interviewed Occupy Pedophilia thugs on camera, perfectly happy to talk to them.
Occupy Pedophilia is the group against gays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a newspaper editor in Russia has been convicted and fined $1,500 for publishing an interview with the guy who was the geography teacher who was fired for saying homosexuality is normal.
And
if you wonder if any of this is this law is being put into place.
And the founder of the online support group for LGBT teens, which is called Children 404, Lena Klimova, was accused of violating the anti-propaganda law. The Russian MP Milanov demanded that she close her group and her website. An investigator says that the site violates the law, and they're going to court over this.
They have more than 1,000 letters on that site from LGBT teens trying to reach out and get support and help.
Sounds like a good way to find them and round them up if you're a right-wing nut in Russia.
The site is called Children 404 because 404 is what you get as a error message, missing 404, and that's what they do. The mayors of Tallahassee, Orlando, and St. Petersburg, Florida, all of which have sister cities in Russia, have sent a letter to Putin condemning discrimination against LGBT Russians.
Why don't they stop being sisters?
The New Zealand Parliament passed a resolution unanimously supporting LGBT Russians.
Maybe we could get that in the Congress. That'd be interesting.
A gay activist in Russia has sued the homophobic TV star who said all gays should be put in ovens.
Yes.
Because he's claiming that the guy violated laws against extremism. The TV star says the suit violates my religious beliefs.
Yeah, sounds like the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee in New York.
And 40 U.S. groups have sent an open letter to corporate sponsors of the Olympics to speak up against the laws. And there's an amazing article in the current GQ magazine by Jeff Charlotte, who follows the right-wing evangelical groups who go around the world promoting all this anti-gay hysteria. Really good article called Inside the Iron Closet, What It's Like to Be Gay in Putin's Russia.
Homophobia is one of our greatest exports.
And the People for the American Way has put out a report, Globalizing Homophobia, How the American Right Supports and Defends Russia's Anti-Gay Crackdown.
Sure. And more international news.
Yeah, and John Carlos, who put up the fist in '68, put out a statement, we're in this fight together.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Okay, and that got him in a lot of trouble for like 20 years.
It was thrilling to see.
It was thrilling, and he paid the price.
He got kicked out of the Olympics and had his medals taken away.
And was a very controversial figure,
Yep.
just for sticking up for his people.
Yeah.
Well, more international news. You know, we told you that the Vatican was going to do a survey of Catholics around the world. Well, the Germans and the Swiss could not wait to tell you the results. They even held a press conference. We still haven't heard anything from New York from Cardinal Dolan.
Yeah.
But they released the results, and they said Catholics reject the Church's teachings on contraception, sexual morality, gay unions, and divorce. Duh. The remarkable thing here is, of course, that the results were publicized. The Germans said that these teachings are virtually never accepted or expressly rejected, and the teaching against condoms, this is what Catholics are telling them, are immoral. You're the immoral ones. So this is all going to go back to the Pope for a big meeting in October.
Very fascinating what they're going to do with this. The American Catholic hierarchy so far is all of them refusing to release results of
if they're even doing the survey.
Yeah, that too. The Scottish Parliament has passed a same-sex marriage law, and they
105 to 18.
My people. And in Bulgaria...
Goes into effect later this year.
Yeah, along with England and Wales. The Bulgarian parliament has rejected a law that would have imposed prison terms and fines for people who are openly gay. Bulgaria, right on.
Thank goodness for small favors or graces. In Bosnia, at a gay film festival, 10 to 15 hooligans in hoods and balaclavas.
Yeah, that's the
burst into the film festival and injured 3 people.
The LGBT film
Their
festival.
injuries were not life-threatening. Bosnia is a largely Muslim country. An attempt at a pride march there in 2008 ended in violence. They didn't even get to march.
Now, the marriage movement is heating up in Venezuela. 47 LGBT organizations went to Parliament. We're going to show you some footage.
They delivered 20,000 signatures at the National Assembly in Caracas on Friday, and same-sex couples married in Argentina are going to go to court there to get recognized. In Venezuela, this is catching on around the world.
I can see that, yes. Congratulations.
Where's the religious right when you need them, huh?
In Mexico, the Supreme Court there has ruled that same-sex married couples and those in civil unions should get the same health pension benefits, survivor benefits as opposite-sex married couples.
They actually said they must get them.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to give some bad news from Senegal, Dakar, where a gay couple were sentenced to 6 months in jail for being perceived as gay. They were turned in by their neighbors.
And staying in Africa, in northern Nigeria, 2 Islamic courts have had to completely suspend the trials of the 10 men accused of homosexuality because of mob violence there over it.
We've been telling you...
This is not us protesting. This is people wanting to string them up.
Kill them with rocks. In India, we've been telling you about how, a lower court some years ago had gotten rid of the anti-gay, anti-sodomy law.
In 2009.
And recently we were shocked when the India Supreme Court reimposed that law. Well, in Mumbai this past week, 5,000 people showed up at the 7th Gay Pride event, the biggest turnout they've ever had, because people are so angry and upset at the court.
It's invigorated their movement the way it invigorated our movement when we got the same decision in 1986.
Yeah.
Back to Nigeria, the Global Forum on Men Who Have Sex with Men and HIV is standing with the Initiative for Equal Rights and International Center for Advocacy and the Right of Health, calling on HIV donors to support greater protection of LGBT people in Nigeria.
In Paris and Lyon, France, I was horrified to see that the right wing has again turned out big demonstrations with thousands of people against us.
And they happen to be neo-Nazis, most of them.
Yes.
Tens of thousands marched. And this was explicitly to oppose the idea of gays using surrogacy.
Yes, to have children.
Yes.
Well, they're a disappearing crowd, I hope. In Alberta, Canada, which is not a particularly liberal place. This is the middle provinces of Canada, which are perceived as a little more conservative. Marianne Ryan, out lesbian, is the new head of the Mounties.
Got a picture there. She
Yeah.
is. She's been a long time Mountie, and
long time out.
Yep.
All through her career.
She's never had any problems with it. They're accepting of her and her partner, or I guess her wife at this point.
In Kyrgyzstan, Human Rights Watch says that cops are extorting, threatening, detaining, beating, and sexually abusing gay and bisexual men.
Well, the Grand Mufti there issued a fatwa against same-sex relations. Now, this is a country that decriminalized gay sex in '89, but Human Rights Watch found that's what Anna said is happening.
There was one, I have to go back to a footnote in Russia, one semi-good piece of news, I would say. A court in the eastern area of Russia has actually found 3 men guilty of murdering a gay man, which, you know, actually following up by police work on a homophobic killing. So that's...
Well, we're having a little trouble with that in New York, too. Finland Olympic swimmer has come out, Ari-Pekka Luukkonen, due to the Sochi thing is why he has come out.
Yeah, but he's the Summer Olympics.
For Rio, he's hoping for the Rio Olympics. Yeah. In Chile, a rash of anti-gay attacks there, 2 fatal within the last month.
Yeah.
I mean, this one guy, Esteban Parada Armijo, 22, beaten brutally while leaving a gay bar where he worked on January 17th, but an assailant has been caught. Hundreds attended his funeral, and there was also the killing of a man, 59, who died on January 15th, and he was attacked for his sexual orientation. And in Valparaiso.
A young gay activist in Azerbaijan, Issa Shmarli, I can't read my own handwriting, 20 years old, hung himself in the face of anti-gay attacks.
In Uganda, the Anglican leader there responded to the Archbishop of Canterbury's call not to victimize gays and lesbians by reminding him that homosexuality is not compatible with Scripture. And he told him to mind his own business. He is glad that the death penalty was removed from the anti-gay bill, and said his church is a safe place for those struggling with their sexuality. And he wants the U.S. and Canada Anglicans disinvited from the Lambeth Conference of Anglicans in the future because we're too pro-gay.
Small footnotes. You may remember when we held a protest when Johnny Weir spoke at Barnard College a couple of months ago. Andy confronted him personally at the talk, and I
was just going to report on what he said, but then he insulted you. He called you an idiot. He said all those idiots outside were protesting me.
Yeah, it wasn't me personally.
Well, we were there.
But thank you for defending my honor. So anyway, this talk was supposed to be posted on the website by Barnard, and guess what? It hasn't shown up.
They say he won't give them permission, but I imagine he signed something beforehand. I think Columbia is chicken, and Columbia is suppressing academic freedom.
Yeah, and... wait, I had one other small one. What was it? Well, I'm happy to say that Trinity College in Dublin is barring Coke and Procter & Gamble products for the duration of the games. Wesleyan University is doing a Coke boycott. All of that is good. I'll leave it at that because I can't find the other thing. This Principle 6 protest.
Principle 6 is the Olympic principle of inclusion, right?
Yeah. So Principle, the All Out and Athlete Ally and everybody have been pushing everybody getting these T-shirts. They have a whole line of Principle 6 clothing. One of them is underwear, men's underwear, on which it says P6. We suspect men do not want to wear underwear briefs that say P6.
AIDS news.
Yes.
In San Francisco, a porn company there was fined $78,000 for unsafe working conditions allowing unprotected sex on camera. Cybernet, the company, calls it excessive and politically motivated and based on complaints of anti-porn people, including AIDS Healthcare Foundation. The company says performers who got HIV got it off camera. they're saying.
Well, I would also say, and
they
look,
say they test people biweekly, and
well, and AIDS Healthcare Foundation says testing is not prevention. I would agree with that. I've always advocated certainly for protected sex on camera in these films, but
yes,
we are at a new time, and we're not talking about whether people have undetectable virus levels, whether they are on preventive drugs. There are a lot of nuances to this now, and to reduce it all to condoms, I think, is not very up to date. So
okay.
I think it's complicated.
And you get the latest news here on Gay USA.
Yeah. Report that health report from the LGBT community health surveys. LGBT people spend $8 billion a year on cigarettes. 33% of the community are smokers, and they spend 65 times as much on cigarettes as they do on donations to LGBT causes.
That's what the priest always used to say in church and college.
Think
You said
about
you don't
that.
even stick the $5 you'd give to a movie to come here on Sunday. So what are you going to do?
Our friend and former guest here, Mark Milano, is conducting Living with HIV workshops at ACREA, the AIDS Community Research Initiative of America. Second one next week. Drug resistance, how to keep your drugs working. ACREA, call them up for information about that. Okay. Oh, ACT UP was an answer on Jeopardy a couple of weeks ago.
How about that?
Shocking.
Did anybody get it?
Yes, some woman got it. The answer on the screen. The category was something about ACT. And so the answer was a diverse, nonpartisan group committed to direct action to end the AIDS crisis.
Sounds like Ann Northrup at the beginning of every meeting.
ACT dash. Oh, Caught in the Act was the category.
Entertainment news?
Yes.
I have a correction from last week. I reviewed Claire Cass's wonderful play, Dr. Du Bois and Miss Ovington, which is about early people in the NAACP, but I called them both founders. And my friend Christopher English Walling, who watches the show all the time, said, my grandfather founded the NAACP. He was the initial founder, and Du Bois was hired by the NAACP, by the board. Miss Ovington was one of the early people on the board. So I just want to clear up all that. It's a good play at the Castillo Theater.
Okay. And, of course, the big news this week was the awful death of Philip Seymour Hoffman. And it's of interest to us both because he was a terrific actor and a great loss.
Took a lot of gay roles. Won the Oscar for Capote. He played Flawless. He played a drag queen with Robert De Niro. He was kind of gayish and talented Mr. Ripley, which I thought he was best in, and Boogie Nights also. So, but it certainly has highlighted the heroin problem in this country.
We promised you we would follow the series Looking on HBO. They have now aired 3 episodes. The first one we thought was really dull and meaningless. The second episode improved, I thought.
A little.
Well, they, you got a little more humanity in it.
I'm with the fact that they really haven't developed much of a story to tell here.
Well, I thought the third episode was again downhill, although they have brought in Scott Bakula as a guest star, and that's quite stunning to a lot of people.
They brought in Russell Tovey, who's playing Jonathan Goff's boss on it, and who's openly gay actor. And I'm going to see him when I go to London later this year in a play over there when he's playing gay roles.
People are defending Looking as, oh, this is a great step forward because it's real life.
It's not interesting.
It is boring as hell. And,
and we're not trying to be difficult here, but we wanted something more. I mean,
we remember the L Word. That was great TV.
And you don't have to like girls, but it's at least interesting. I mean, it's crazy, but it's interesting.
What, the L Word?
Girls.
Oh, girls. No, I don't like girls.
I know you don't.
I thought you meant girls.
I don't think I'm going to say I like it, but I think it's interesting.
No, I like episodes.
Out actor Christopher Sieber is taking the role of Miss Trunchbull in Matilda the Musical starting March 18th.
Dr. Phil was on The View, and the question of Bruce Jenner came up. What is going on with him? And Dr. Phil thinks, yes, he looks like he's transitioning. This is the debate. Is Bruce Jenner transitioning?
Okay, maybe.
Who knows?
You know, we're all in between. I do say that without any irony.
Yes.
Barney's is featuring 17 transgender models. It's not new to use transgender models, but they're featuring 17 in their push for equality. The campaign is called Brothers, Sisters, Sons, and Daughters, and it's shot by Bruce Weber. And yes, I almost died at going to see Almost Maine. This is the most produced play in this country. It was produced.
What?
It is the most produced play in this country. It's a little thing. It's a date play. It's about couples. About couples mostly kissing each other inappropriately. There's a picture.
Yeah.
But it had a very short run in New York and was a failure years ago.
Yeah.
And it's been all over the country. So it comes back to New York at the Judson Church. The whole set is a snowscape, which you have to walk across to get to your seat. And I almost fall down, and I say to the stage manager, you got to get rid of this and put a mat down. Somebody's going to kill themselves. If I'd hurt myself, I'd be suing you right now, wouldn't I? Oh, thank you for your suggestion. I said, it's not a suggestion. It's a tort. You got to get rid of it.
And what did you think of the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Yeah, right. You know, it's got its charms. I don't want to be too parochial here. It's not for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got and it's got a crazy little slight lesbian sub-theme.
Okay. A couple more entertainment news notes. The band Fun, F-U-N, period.
Yes.
One of those, you know, young people things these days.
Yes. I'd have to phone a friend.
They have committed to raise $250,000 to build a community health center at the Ruth Ellis Center in Detroit, named after a legendary lesbian activist. And it's a community center there, and it's terrific that they're going to raise a lot of money to build that. Not so terrific, Scott Thorson, the surviving lover of Liberace, who wrote Behind the Candelabra, the book on which the very, very popular HBO movie was based. He was played by Matt Damon in the movie.
Very well.
Well, the real Scott Thorson has just been sentenced to 8 to 12 years in prison. He failed a drug test while on probation for a previous conviction for burglary and identity theft, and he violated an order to go to rehab. So Scott Thorson is in jail while Michael Douglas and Matt Damon are collecting
Roam free.
all the awards.
Help him out.
For Behind the Candelabra.
Oh, help the poor guy out. He's had a hard life.
Seems unfair somehow.
He's had a hard life.
So here we are at the Olympics finally, and you know, we told you last week that Queer Nation was going to do a big demonstration this week at
the Russian consulate in New York,
which is happening tomorrow, which is why we can't talk to you about it today. But and Pussy Riot is at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn tonight as part of the Amnesty International big human rights concert, and they've been doing a little press around town, and they have been really just knocking people off their feet. They're so good, even though they're speaking in Russian through a translator. They are smart, they are witty, they're really, really
They had a lot of time to think about it in jail.
And they are not backing down 1 inch in their complaints about Putin and his government and his attitude.
But that's, for free people just to be brought up to date, that's how all this happened. Putin was losing his grip on power, protest movements were building in the country, and it was part of a crackdown on dissent, and then playing to the cheap seats, he went after Ann and me.
So
gay people.
And so who are the biggest collaborators? NBC. They're over there now doing this coverage, and it is, as I figured it would be, Brigadoon. You know, you read all the other press and you read all these hilarious stories about how the hotels are not completed and how these journalists are being treated, which is why they're going to continue to do bad stories.
Well, giving up on their billion-dollar contract is hard, just like it's hard for Mayor de Blasio to acknowledge what we're asking, which is hard, but asking police and fire not to march in uniform in a bigoted parade.
More next week. Thank you for joining us. Hello to San Francisco. We'll see you next week.